Welcome to the first virtual town hall of 2021 held by the members of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm Dylan Blaylock with Clackamas County's Public and Government Affairs Department, and I'll be coordinating the public comments for today's meeting. Starting last year with the onset of the pandemic, the Board of County Commissioners held several digital events in order to hear directly from the public on issues of great importance. County Commissioners will continue to host these town halls through the calendar year on topics of public concern. Today from the Board of County Commissioners, we have Sonia Fisher and Martha Schrader. My thanks to both of you for being here. Today's topic is supporting the children of Clackamas County. First, commissioners will provide some opening remarks. I will then introduce our other guests, and we'll move on then to opening up the Zoom lines rather. And with that, we will start with Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you, Dylan, and thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm very happy that both Commissioner Schrader and I are here to start this year's virtual town hall series with our Clackamas County Commissioners. This is one of the ways that our board has chosen to connect with our constituents and our stakeholders. Last year, we held nearly 20 digital listening sessions and town halls, and we're planning to hold them at least monthly. So I can speak from personal experience that it really means a lot that you're here to share with us your thoughts and concerns. This is an incredibly important topic, and we really, really want to hear from you. So you may have seen Commissioner Schrader and I wrote an op-ed that was in the Pamplin media a couple weeks ago. And what we really want is for folks to engage on the issues of our children and our families, and to offer creative solutions, give us ideas, help form our thinking as a county commission. We as we are the grandmothers of the commission, and with our love for families and love for children, we really want to use our roles and all that we can as far as advocating with our other elected leaders around the region and with our fellow commissioners to make sure that our children and our families have a voice in the policy that we make in Clackamas County. And so with that, I will pass it on to Commissioner Schrader.
Mute here. Well, thank you, Commissioner Fisher. It's wonderful to be here with you. And this is our first listening session of 2021. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today. And I'd like to start the conversation by relaying that we as the Board of County Commissioners, we really don't oversee directly our school districts or have any authority about school district operations. But we can advocate with our fellow elected officials for changes and let them know about concerns. And actually, this morning I did have an opportunity to speak to our superintendents, and we were talking about, Governor Brown announcing that in-person instruction seems to be imminent for those folks. And they are absolutely doing a fantastic job. Every single one of our superintendents, they're professionals, they're CEOs of major, district organizations. And I believe we should be very grateful to every single superintendent, including the ESD, the leadership that they have shown through COVID-19. It's been a really, really hard on everyone. And they have been diligent, and they have been constantly looking out for the welfare of families and the children that are in their district. So advocacy. Governor Brown has enacted changes and ordered schools to reopen. And I'm going to read one part of her letter sent last week to the Oregon Health Authority and Oregon Department of Education. Because of progress and the great work done by Oregon schools, parents, students, administrators, teachers, and staff, the time has come for our students to return to the learning environment we know serves them best, in-person instruction. In recognition of this incredible progress and under my authority as governor and as superintendent of public instruction, I am taking the following executive actions to ensure all public schools provide universal access to in-person instruction for K-5 students on or before the week of March 29, 2021, and students 6 through 12 on or before the week of April 19th, 2021. I'm using this phased approach because, as we have seen from school districts that have returned to in-person instruction successfully, schools will return our youngest learners to school first and apply the lessons learned from that implementation process to reopening middle and high school buildings. I know that Commissioner Fisher and I and all of our commissioners on our board are happy that this action is taking place because of the burden on both children and caregivers that they've experienced. And we know that a number of folks have struggled because we heard from many of you during our event last fall. But as we appear to start coming out of the pandemic, Commissioner Fisher and I'm proud to have her as a close colleague on this because she's correct. We're both grandmothers, so we have a stake in all of this on a personal level as well as a professional level. We really want to make sure that we call on all of our communities, individuals, nonprofits, schools, and others to come together to make a difference in the lives of our children. How can county officials best help children and parents and best advocate for your needs? How can we help our superintendents and our education professionals to support them and to make sure that they are doing well in the middle of a crisis as well? We're looking for creative solutions and any innovative ideas to help our kids through the school year and any other problems they may face. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dylan. Thanks, Dylan.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioners Fisher and Schrader. I'm actually going to bring up on the screen just real quickly the op-ed that was the commissioners referenced. This appeared in 7 or 8 Pamplin papers a couple of weeks ago. We will also send out a link to it in the chat. I do believe that Pamplin requires a subscription, however, just so you know. I'll also introduce 2 other guests and county staff that are joining us for this discussion. Gally Murray and Dr. Jeffrey Anderson both work within the county's Health, Housing, and Human Services Department. Gally is a licensed social worker and Jeffrey is a licensed psychologist. They are active in responding to crises and helping the well-being of Clackamas County residents. Thank you both for being here tonight. And I'll also quickly add that Clackamas County offers the Safe and Strong program. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. There we go. Let me see, which provides free community outreach and support services to people of all ages in Clackamas County. The program services include brief counseling via remote services, outreach into the community, and educational material and online support for overall mental health and wellness. You can also see our 24/7 crisis and support line to the right there on the page. And we will also put this web address in the chat. So, okay, very good. And regarding tonight, I also have several emails to read from individuals who were not able to make this meeting live. We will end by 7 p.m. at the latest. And I would like to reiterate one point made by Commissioner Schrader because it is important to note. With regard to schools, commissioners do not oversee, nor do they have authority over local school district operations within the county, but they can advocate. All right. Again, as Commissioner Schrader stated, how can county officials best help children and parents and best advocate for your needs? If any attendees would like to provide a comment, you can do so now by hitting the raise hand button on the Zoom bar. That's at the top or bottom, depending on your device. You can also send over an email to be read if that's easier, if we have enough time, to clackonews@clackamas.us, ClackCo, CLACKCO, news@clackamas.us. And if you're on the phone, I think we do have someone on the phone, and you want to raise your hand, you can hit *9, and that lets me know that you have something to say. We will ask you to keep our comments to about 3 minutes, and I will signal you when it's time to start ending your comments. And with that, we will go ahead and bring over, let's see, Samantha Furlow, maybe. Samantha Furlow, yep, go ahead, and you are on. You can go ahead and speak with the commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Schrader and Commissioner Fisher, for hosting tonight's town hall and for inviting input from the community about the pressing needs of kids. My name is Samantha Furlow, and I work for Northwest Family Services as the Families Affected by Incarceration Program Manager. We are also active members of the Clackamas Safe Kids Coalition. NWFS receives a grant through the CCFC Department of Clackamas County, specifically to support children of incarcerated parents, which we fondly refer to as our SIP kids. The funding barely covers minimal support. We are, however, creative in getting them what they need, but the supportive services we provide require extra time. Our SIP kids have an average ACE score of 9, and many have a full ACE of 10. The students we serve are often highly traumatized, sometimes living unspeakable lives. The 2 paid staff positions and our volunteer mentors provide long-term support for our youth. It's been hard. We continue to work, but the need is so incredibly great. I have students sitting on my wait list for more than a year at a time already. As we transition back into normal life, a tidal wave of referrals is sure to come. This will make the number of students on our wait list multiply. Our students need stability and long-term support. The protective factors we build around our students are literally life-changing. They also require long-term stable funding. The longevity of the stability is truly key to reducing the impact of childhood trauma. Since we started the program in 2014, 4 of our young adults are either in college or have received trade certificates, one of which is now working at NWFS as a youth peer support specialist. This year, we have 5 seniors. 1 has been accepted to PSU's School of Social Work, 1 has enlisted in the Army, leaving for boot camp in July, and 3 others are applying for university for this fall. We desperately need additional funds as the need is greater than ever. Last year, NWFS served over 27,000 people, almost 25% more than the year before, stretching our limited resources. This is only one of our programs that serves high needs youth. Please, please continue to make children a priority in our county. Thank you for the time and energy you devote to our community.
All right, thank you very much for that, Samantha. Appreciate that. Okay, next we're going to go to, I'm sorry if I get the last name wrong, but Sarah Kimes. Sarah Kimes. If you're there, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. There we go. And you're on with the commissioners. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. And yes, you did pronounce it right. Thank you so much for having me. I am the mental health training coordinator for the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Clackamas County. I will share a little bit about my experience and what our programs offer that are already innovatively helping students. So as a child, I experienced really significant mental health care concerns. I had anxiety, depression, PTSD, and I was very suicidal. By the age of 12, I was unable to attend school. And by 13, I was attempting to end my own life. I made 4 suicide attempts before the age of 17 years old. And even at that time, even with all of that going on, no one offered myself or my mother any viable supportive options. So eventually I was able to get into an online school, and those teachers are trained in mental health, and they connected me to NAMI. So 10 years ago, this year, we were walked into the NAMI Clackamas office, and I was given a hug and told that I was needed for the first time in my life. I have an ACEs score of 9. So that changed my life. It started my career, and unfortunately, not all of our teachers have an understanding of mental illness. Not all of our kids know what to look for, and most parents don't know what to do when they see their kids struggling. So currently, one of the programs that we work with under the grant we have for mental health training with SAMHSA is our Ending the Silence program, and we offer this to students in middle and high schools. Now, this presentation focuses on mental health, suicide warning signs and prevention, how to seek help for their mental health, how to break stigma, and how to support others. We have received really positive feedback for this program already, including one of our more recent presentations, having a student give us feedback that it will help them help to save lives. And I mean, that's from a high school student. So we have a lot of testimonials that illustrate the importance of this program. We absolutely focus on being as innovative as possible. We are one of the only programs offering in person and now online presentations of this manner to middle school and high school students. We have been offering them for almost 3 years, come September 2021. And I feel that if this had been available in my schools, I wouldn't have had as much of a struggle. I would have known sooner how to get help, how to move forward. And unfortunately, that was not the case, but it is now. It's an innovative way to reach children and youth in the discussion around mental health. We also offer a program for their parents called NAMI Basics. And this is designed for parents of youth and adolescents who are experiencing symptoms of mental health conditions. We use this to help them seek support, learn to talk to their children's schools and teachers about their conditions, how to advocate for their kids within the system. We offer resources and also how to address the impact of mental health within their families and for themselves. Through these programs, we break down stigma and support youth and their families so that they are not afraid to seek help. These programs have been changing and saving lives in our county for the last 3 years. We intend to continue to offer them, to expand, to reach even more people so that no child dies by suicide. To do this, we must continue to fund these vital programs. Currently, our SAMHSA grant will expire in 2021, in the end of this September. So we ask for your continued support to keep these programs in mind to help us spread the word on the importance of mental health and these programs in schools. I know that you can't make the decisions of schools holding our programs, for example, but I know that you can advocate for us because we offer so much through these. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for that, Sarah. Let me see. Well, there were obviously a lot of issues that were brought in there. I wonder if I could bring in either Gally or Dr. Anderson. I should say Gally or Jeffrey, excuse me, because there were, well, what would you like to say in response to that? Maybe about resources and things.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Sarah has already shared with us all around resources that are available, that there are free mental health awareness and suicide prevention trainings available at the gettrainedtohelp.com website, which Dylan, I think, is going to bring up here. Again, at gettrainedtohelp.com, all smushed together. And these trainings are free for anyone who lives or works in Clackamas, Multnomah, or Washington County. And the reason why I'm bringing this up on the coattails of what Sarah is mentioning is that there is a youth mental health first aid class that is, and everything on here right now is virtual. There's a youth mental health first aid class that is for adults to provide additional skills and tools to better support young people. And I looked just now before coming in and chatting with you, and there's an available class on April 8th at 9 a.m. that has capacity, and again, it's free. So go to gettrainedtohelp.com and see about these mental health awareness and suicide prevention trainings. They're free, and this is one way to better equip us as community members and parents and partners and you name it, better equip us to support those around us, whether in our professional life or in our personal life.
Great. Thank you so much, Gally. And then Jeffrey, I'll bring you in real quick. You know, there's a lot of folks who are struggling with their mental health or the mental health of loved ones, but might not be aware about all the available options for help out there. If somebody doesn't really know where to begin, what would you recommend that they do?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I would say, first and foremost, call the Clackamas County Crisis and Support Line. This is a 24/7 resource, and it's staffed by Clackamas County employees during the daytime, and we have a great resource at night that takes over. But essentially, anybody that you talk to there is going to have access to various resources, whether those are mental health, whether those are for your physical health. You know, we also run an urgent walk-in center over in Happy Valley on 82nd Avenue. This clinic is open 6 days a week, so we're not open Sundays, but otherwise we're open basically 9 to 7 weekdays, 10 to 7 on Saturdays. We see any age. Cost is not an issue. We will see anybody. Doesn't matter what your insurance is or if you have an insurance. And we really specialize in seeing folks who are in a crisis, who are either, maybe they're having thoughts about killing themselves or hurting themselves. Maybe they are hearing voices, what have you. We see folks in whatever's bringing them in. We also have other programs at the county that do outpatient services, so ongoing therapy services for folks. But again, if you call that crisis and support number, we can direct based on what you're telling us. So if you're just looking for a therapist or you're looking for a primary care doc, we can put you on the right path there.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you very much. And again, we actually just added the crisis and support line in the chat for everyone, so they have it. Okay, great. I see some more hands up, but before I go back to individuals who are on Zoom, I'm going to get to one email that we received. I'll just be putting in the emails throughout the conversation. This one we got from Jen P. of Milwaukee. I'm curious to know if Clackamas County is thinking about or is in the process of working toward an initiative like Preschool for All that Multnomah County has created. My partner is an early childhood behavior specialist, and over the years, I've heard different numbers, but generally, investing in early childhood learning returns $8 to $10 in benefits for every $1 spent. Those are benefits that directly impact our community. It seems like the educational/community benefits are enough, but the other bonus is that parents can graduate from paying for and sending their children to daycare when their children are eligible for and preschool is accessible to them. Thank you for your time. Again, Jen P. of Milwaukee. Would either commissioner like to speak to that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in. I was going to try to Google up some information, but I couldn't get my keyboard in front of me. So I just can't remember. But we were briefed back, Commissioner Schrader, you might have to help me. Was it in December our early childhood folks came because there was an expansion of preschool in Clackamas County? It wasn't preschool for all, but it was a definite improvement from what we had in the past. And so I do know that there's a concerted effort for expansion that is happening, and and preschool is more available now. Commissioner Schrader, do you remember more specifics? Maybe Dylan is doing the fancy work and can put up a website. I do know that providing support for families in that way is really, really important. And I also know that providing that support young reduces costs later. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, as my mother used to always say. And so I really support those sentiments.
So these are some of the conversations we've been having with our superintendents, because they've been a proponent of our early learning hubs. And we do have an early learning hub in Clackamas County. We need to be tying it a little more closely, I believe, to our school districts. But that is one of the things that will help get that preschool. And one of the models is the model at Gladstone, where they have like a K4 spread. I think it's K4, it might be K3, with Healthy Start, Head Start there, a relief nursery. It's kind of this notion of a hub where early kids that are in early stages of development kind of have those wraparound services directly where their classrooms are. And I know that's something that we've talked about with our school district superintendents. And the other piece that they have been really vocal about is the best practices for kids in junior high school is to really get them after school programs. So you're working across the continuum from the early learning piece, where everything is kind of at the big one stop. And that's where our early learning hub, I think, can come in to do more work with our local districts. And then that continuum, when they get older, making sure that they're not getting into trouble and that they're being, get that backup you know, when they're in junior high school and more prone to, you know, kind of go off, you know, just go off and be a junior high school kid, which can be pretty problematic some days. One of the things I know now is that the legislature has pulled together a summer learning and childcare package with 5 specific investments. One is a summer enrichment academic program for K-8, that's 90 million. Oh, then there is a summer academic support grants, that's high school, 72 million. Summer activity grants is 40 million, that's enrichment for students. And here's where the investment is: school childcare grants, 30 million. They'll be used by Title I elementary schools and tribes to partner with community-based providers to provide wraparound childcare services, health, wellness, mental and behavioral health, nutrition. And then an early learning program, 13 million, to help the early learning division grantees to continue to provide the service to the kids through the summer months. That's pre-kindergarten, preschool promise, and the early childhood equity fund. So the legislature is stepping up to the plate for this. The issue is, this seems to be more centered in you know, summer programs, but these are the kinds of things that we need to have for year round. And it'll all go together, I think. And there are details. You can go to www.governor.oregon.gov, and they're calling it the Summer Learning and Childcare Package. And if you want to get more information, you can find it, I believe, on the governor's website. But that's a definitely big step in the right direction. And I know that we as commissioners, Commissioner Fisher and I and the rest are will be very supportive of this effort. So, okay.
Very good.
Right.
Thank you both. Thank you both, commissioners. I'm going to bring, we just shared the Clackamas County Early Learning Hub link in the chat for everybody. It should be on your screen now. And Commissioner Fisher, were you referencing this program, maybe Preschool Promise? Is that
Yes,
right?
I was, and I'm so happy
very
I
good.
did find it and pulled it up on my screen on my computer. And so I'm happy that you found it to share. But there
Great.
is a contact number there as well.
Excellent. We will go ahead and put that in the chat as well. So excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, and with that, we are going to go back to the calls. Let's see. Next up is Chris Waller. Chris, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, thank you very much. And you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to keep this very brief. I know that there are so many things having to do with the future of our children that are not under the control of the county. And one of the things that is under the control of the county is the county budget. And so I think that it is extremely important that when the budget negotiations commence, that we keep the needs of our community and our children at the forefront when making the very difficult decisions about which county programs will be funded. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate that. Let's see. Next up, we're going to go to Julie Scarfole. My apologies if I'm mispronouncing, if I'm not pronouncing the last name correctly. Julie Scarf.
It's Scarfole, like
Scarfole,
Scarfole
okay.
Tunnel.
Okay.
That helps you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Silent
Go ahead,
H.
Julie. Yep.
So, thank you. Thanks for hosting. I will also try and keep this very brief. I think it's very apparent that schools being closed for an entire year has had a devastating effect on children, and it will probably continue to have an effect very negatively on children for years to come, some probably for their entire lifetime. And I just didn't know what the commissioners were doing for advocacy. I'm not too sure if you're aware that Governor Brown's mandate to reopen schools is a great start, but because of the spacing requirement that the ODE and OSHA has put on for 6 feet, schools can only be open to children for 2 mornings a week. So while kids are back in school, they're not back in school full time. They're back in school for about 2 hours twice a week. So I was just curious if you had planned on or have done any advocacy with the ODE and OSHA to try and get them to adopt the mandate that the rest of the world has done with 3 feet of space, now that teachers are vaccinated and children will be wearing masks. so that we can get our schools open full time, because without that mandate being dropped, schools in Clackamas County, most of them will not be able to open full time. They just don't have the space. When you have to create 6 feet of space for every single person in the room, that limits you to about 12 kids a room. And when you normally have 24 to 26 kids in a classroom, I mean, you can do the math. That means you're going part-time all the time. So until that mandate gets lifted, we will not see our kids in a classroom, 5 days a week. And so I was just curious if you guys were aware of that, and if you had been in any contact with ODE, governor, or OSHA to try and get that mandate changed. Thanks.
I have not been directly in contact, no. But I've been taking notes as you were speaking, and perhaps this is something we can address. I don't know, Commissioner Fisher, if you've talked to anyone. I have not.
No, but Julie, I would love the information that you provide about the other recommendations. If you could email that as far as what other jurisdictions are doing, it's really helpful. We do have an audience weekly with our different avenues with the Oregon Health Authority and with the governor's office, and I would love to ask that question. But having
Perfect. I'll send you all the research. Thanks.
I really appreciate it. So you can just email it, Sonia Fisher at clackamas.us, and I will get that directly, but I appreciate the comments.
Commissioner, just go ahead and forward it to me then. I'll take a look at it too. We'll work on it together. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much for that, Julie. Next, let's go. Well, let's bring in one more email real quickly here. This one is from Stephen. I'm a volunteer working with monitoring the quality of care with children in foster placements due, in majority of cases, to addicted parents who are not taking care of and endangering children. DHS, I am not affiliated with them, but work with them, in my opinion, is grossly underfunded and therefore understaffed. Their workers are doing a great job given the excessive caseloads and extremely difficult juggling of many balls, some of which are very contentious. They, however, are vulnerable to oversights in spite of their best efforts and intentions. Please try to give them what they need, which in my opinion is more than they are currently getting, to ensure a continuing quality, vital service. Thank you, from Stephen. So again, that's mainly about DHS. Okay, and with that, we are going to go back to the calls, as it were. Let's bring in Brenda Kinoshita, maybe? Let's say that. Brenda, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. And I hope I got your name right.
You did, Dylan.
Great.
You're in a hard position trying to pronounce everybody's name, but you got that exactly perfect. So thank you so much. Right. And thank you also, commissioners, for hosting this town hall. My name is Brenda Kinoshita. I am the Director of Development and Communications for Clackamas Women's Services. Our mission is to break the isolation for survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and that includes child abuse. Our children's program offers supports to both children and caregivers and helps to strengthen and repair the parent-child bond, as well as doing that through individual and group counseling, through our Camp Hope program, which offers children healing from trauma and their caregivers the opportunity to have a great time in a summer space, while also participating with other kids who have had similar experiences, so they know that they're not alone. And our children's program also provides prevention education to the community and in public schools. And I'll just touch briefly on some things that I think will not be surprising to any of you. Child abuse has been a problem for a long time, but what we expect to see when kids go back to school is a real rise in the number of incidents reported to us and kids who need assistance, because it has always been the case that teachers have observed more closely the physical and emotional well-being of their students from that day-to-day interaction. And one of the things that we experienced as an organization last summer, as Clackamas County reopened to some extent after having been shut down for the better part of the winter, was that we saw the number of domestic violence cases referred to us, and child abuse cases as well, really escalate alarmingly. Once victims and survivors were free to leave their abuser, once they no longer had to shelter in place, but sometimes they have had to keep sheltering in place. And so we can, I think, reasonably expect to see a similar dramatic uptick in the number of cases that are referred to us and that teachers observe, even in that limited 2 hours twice a week, which, we all know that isn't enough, but we do have to start someplace. And so one of the things that I can also speak to from my position as the Director of Development is how uneven funding is for organizations providing resources for children and child abuse right now. We have been notified by some government funders to expect cutbacks in the contracts that we have. Many of our fundraising programs have been curtailed because, of course, we can't gather together, and we're doing our best. I've seen some really wonderful virtual programming in that regard, and we are doing some creative things ourselves, but it isn't the same sort of things that supporters are used to in terms of coming together. These are all sort of COVID related items that have really exacerbated the state of child abuse right now. And so as we expect to meet the challenge, and we all will, it takes time and it takes attention and it takes extra funding to be able to get families and individual children the support that they need. So I want to really commend all of the members of the Safe Kids Coalition, which CWS is a member of, for a commitment to children and also for the support of the Commission for the coalition. And to thank you again for having this town hall and allowing us to share this information with you.
All right, thank you very much for that, Brenda. Much appreciated. We still got some individuals with, if you want to pose a comment to commissioners, go ahead and just use the raise hand function. We have a couple more people to get to, at least right now, but I will bring in another one of the emails from earlier. From Brittany C. Good morning. I'm a parent, lawyer, and advocate to safely return our children back to the classroom now. I helped co-found the Clack to School group, and together with our various sister pages, we now have over 40,000 members across the state. We are fighting for 5 days back full-time for our children. We are absolutely open to deploying all appropriate measures to do so, including masking, adequate spacing, and other hygiene measures. The burden of the pandemic has fallen squarely on the shoulders of our children, who are buckling. Suicides among our youth are increasing, as are the mental health declines. More children have died by suicide in our state this year than by COVID. They are dying not from COVID, but because of our policies surrounding it. I urge you to send a resolution to the governor and the Oregon Health Authority and the Oregon Department of Education, demanding that the RSSL restrictions be lifted so as to safely return all of those children who want to go back into the classroom to do so immediately. The political pandering to the teachers' unions needs to stop. We need to elevate and prioritize the concerns of our children above any newly acquired preference to work from home. The science is overwhelming. There's no more room for dispute. Schools are necessary micro-communities and they are safe. We need to pull out the stops to ensure that the total well-being of our children is respected, and we need to elevate them. Future astronauts, Nobel Peace Prize winners, and leaders of our country are whittling away to shells of themselves at home. Please get creative, get motivated, and let's get teachers back to work. Thank you. Again, that was from Brittany C. Okay, and with that, we are going to go to the phones again. Janet Nagel. Janet Nagel, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself. My apologies for the pronunciation. Go right ahead. You have 3 minutes.
The pronunciation was spot on. I'm Janet with Extension Service, specifically for youth development. And through COVID, fortunately, we've had creative staff that have been able to keep youth engaged in positive youth development through the use of technology. But we also work with a lot of marginalized populations, and we've been creative in establishing partnerships and collaborations where we're getting kids their own personal computers so that they can engage in technology, not only to participate in 4-H, but also to do their schoolwork and be able to participate that way. What we've run into, though, especially in rural areas like Malala, is that we don't have reliable, low-cost internet service. And I don't know if that's anything that the Board of Commissioners can do something about. I'm sure it's prevalent in, some of our other communities as well. But Malala is especially in a tough place where they have basically one provider and no choice between providers. And that provider does not offer any special deals. So even though we can get the kids computers, if they can't afford internet service, obviously the computer is useless. So if you have any influence in that area, we'd really like to see reliable, low cost internet for all our communities, but especially where we have large marginalized populations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janet. Okay, great. A couple more emails to go through. I still have some hands up too. We'll get to those. The first one is from, I don't know how to say it. I'm sorry. Hoa. It's H-O-A. So that's the first name. Hoa. Thanks for thinking about the kids during this difficult time. I have 3 kids, so at least they have someone to talk to, but I can feel for the families with only one child. Besides missing the, quote, real school, they also miss the social activities and other sporting activities. My kids used to go swimming 3 times a week. Now there is no swimming pool open for them. The North Clackamas Aquatic Center reopened recently, but only for 13 years older and up, which is very disappointing. Thank you, Hoa. And of course, NCPRD, North Clackamas. The North Clackamas Aquatic Center is within the NCPRD, the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District. So. And then the other one, another from Betty. I am a grandmother of a Milwaukee football player. I'm a firm and avid supporter of the team and school. I'm very upset over the Clackamas District's decision to keep us from supporting our school team. I was recently informed that some of the sporting events are allowing spectators, but not the football teams. I feel that we have all been safely distancing for over a year. We as families know the importance of this and are ready to practice it effectively. I'm asking that our voices be heard for our kids and for us. We want to be there for our children. We want to be there for our team. We want to support our school. Please let us be there. Thank you, Betty P. Okay, very good. All right, and with that, we're going to bring over Simon Fulford. Simon, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and you'll be on with commissioners for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Dylan. For the record, this is Simon Fulford, the Executive Director of Parent Creek Child and Family Services, and also speaking for the Safe Kids Coalition. Thank you, Commissioners Fisher and Schrader, for your continued leadership in the county and on the commission in all matters to do with the well-being of our children and families. And given the year we had in 2020, I think it's very fitting that your first town hall of this year is directly addressing the needs of children. As a parent of 3 boys, and as Parent Creek provides 24/7 residential care to youth, I personally and professionally know just firsthand just how hard the last year of remote learning has been for our children and teenagers. I also know how very, very hard our teachers and educators have worked to make this digital learning as best it can be. Teachers have done so much and gone the extra mile in a terrible situation, compounded by forest fires, social inequality, ice storms, and power outages affecting their own families. I'd like to make a few comments that I think encompass and pull together many of the previous points you've heard. Child-serving nonprofits in our child safety system have an additional lens on the reality of children in our community right now. And there's both growing evidence locally and nationally that shows irrefutably that the complexity of child abuse cases has increased, that children being identified as victims for greater harm and trauma than before. We know families have been challenged by isolation and economic stress, housing instability, and food insecurity during the pandemic. And sadly, nonprofits, as you heard, I think from Brenda, have had increased funding challenges due to the economic impacts. So the acute needs of children have gone up at a time when resources have been more and more scarce. I'd first like to remind the commissioners and our county partners of the existence of the Safe Kids Coalition. We are here, and you can and should call on us for help, for advice, for guidance, and our input. We represent over 30 organizations working in different ways to address the needs of some of our most vulnerable children. We cover rural, urban, and suburban areas of the county. We have deep reach into local communities, communities of color, and volunteer networks. You can see us as a bit of a community brain trust on what works locally to best serve children and teens. The steering committee meets weekly and the full coalition on a monthly basis. We collectively foresee a flood, if not a tsunami, of referrals for extremely high-risk kids and families once children are back in school and with more professional eyes on them. The Safe Kids Coalition will be presenting an emergency COVID relief request to the Board of Commissioners in a few weeks, specifically aimed at responding to these urgent needs caused by the COVID pandemic. We feel that the county should take bold and decisive action, kind of demonstrated by how our president presented his own COVID relief stimulus package just past Congress, to pass on federal and/or state dollars to the nonprofit portion of Clackamas County's child safety system. As the saying goes, these community organizations have the boots on the ground, the flexibility and the responsiveness to immediately respond to the needs of our children and teens as they start to become more apparent as they return to school. So thank you and stay tuned.
All right, thank you very much for that, Simon. Go ahead. Okay, next we will go to David Burkhard. David Burkhard, if you're there, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and you are on for 3 minutes.
Yeah, good evening. I have a 14-year-old daughter that is in the Oregon City School District as a freshman. And I have been watching her and her friends, their social skills, their interactions with each other start to deteriorate. And it's sad, it's very sad. I don't see our elected officials being aggressive to get our kids back in school. I don't see anything with the school district preparing to have our children back in school. And the necessary things that need to be done by spacing, there's nothing. We talk about it, but I don't see any action being taken place other than just talking about it. And that's basically all I have.
Okay, thank you very much for that, David. We still have some hands up here, but I'll go back to another email that we received. This is from Rose Fuller, who identifies herself as the Executive Director of Northwest Family Services. Greetings, Commissioners Schrader and Fisher. I have a board meeting, so cannot attend right now. I do, however, want to emphasize the need for the county to support increased funding for children and youth. While schools are essential, nonprofits have been a constant support for our most vulnerable children. At Northwest Family Services, a member of the Safe Kids Coalition, that's coming up a lot tonight, endeavors to provide long-term ongoing services which include mental health, alcohol and drug education and treatment, case management, housing, food, and a range of other supports, including helping as possible to create a stable household. Our staff provides another caring adult in a child's life. We appreciate the time and passion you have provided for children, but more is needed. While the cases have been more challenging than ever this past year, as the pandemic becomes manageable, the floodgates will open and we need to be prepared. We ask for your continued and increased support for these vital services. Thank you for your time and interest. Again, that's from Rose Fuller, who identifies herself as the Executive Director of Northwest Family Services. And with that, we will go to, I'll remind everybody who's an attendee right now, if you have a comment, you can go ahead and raise your hand. That can be on the top or bottom of the Zoom bar. We'll go to Robin Christian. Robin Christian, you are on. There you go. Just go ahead and you are on with commissioners for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader and Fisher, thank you very much. This is Robin Christian, Executive Director of CASA of Clackamas County, Court-Appointed Special Advocates, and a proud member of the Safe Kids Coalition, a collective impact model with 5 members of the steering committee and over 70 other nonprofit community members working to make Clackamas County the best place to raise a kid. We appreciate and understand how hard teachers and other school personnel are working to support children's learning in these unprecedented circumstances. And we understand that they have worked hard to reopen schools as soon as possible. As child-serving nonprofits, we have a little bit of a different lens on the reality of children in our community. One of the things that I know is that the #1 reason kids come into foster care is generally because of neglect, not abuse. However, that is no longer the case. They are currently coming into care because of abuse, and the abuse is exponentially worse than anything we've ever seen. This is taking a toll not only on families and children, of course, but on staff as well, who deal with these very difficult, complex cases and are trying hard to do the best that they can. You know, nonprofits face the challenge of decreased funding from both earned revenue and donor revenue. Everybody, you know, pandemic, wildfires, power outages, everybody is suffering, as we saw by the resounding defeat of the Children's Safety Levy. People are holding the purse strings close. As the Safe Kids Coalition, we exist to promote child safety in our community through coordinated services, public education, and advocacy. As Simon pointed out, we meet weekly and we use a collective impact model. I want to let you know that the Safe Kids Coalition will be presenting an emergency COVID relief request to the Board of Commissioners in just a few weeks to meet the urgent needs that each of our organizations are facing, and they're all COVID related. We'll be requesting that federal and state dollars be passed along to support the nonprofit portion of Clackamas County's child safety system. And right now, that portion of the system is inadequately funded to absorb what we believe is going to be an exponential increase and high level of trauma and need among kids and families. We hope that the county acknowledges their responsibility to step up and help these kids. And we're so grateful that Commissioner Schrader and Commissioner Fisher are hosting this to ask how they can help. And that is one of the ways they can do it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much for that, Robin. Okay, again, I'll remind individuals in the audience, you can go ahead and raise your hand if you want to provide a comment. I don't see any other hands. I'm going to go back to read 3 brief emails in a row here real quickly because they all seem to relate to schools opening or expansion. So just 3 in a row here. First, from Malia M. Thank you for convening this meeting to discuss the children of our county. We must come up with solutions to get our kids in school for more time. The 6 feet guidelines need to change to 3 feet and do away with the 100 cohorts. We can also utilize places like churches, libraries, etc. to conduct classes. Put the children in the gym or hallways. Other areas of our country have done that, and they are beginning to go back. My 5th grader is going to school for 11 hours a week after an entire year of distance learning, of which I'm not sure he learned anything. In a normal school year, he would be in for 6.5 hours a day, excuse me. At this point, I'm not as much worried about the educational aspect, but the social and emotional harm this has caused. It's been really hard for him. Clackamas County, please put pressure on OHA to update the guidelines. We can do better and advocate for our children. From Malia M. The next one was from Steve S. We all know the governor has ordered the schools to reopen. However, the Ready Safe Learners program is based on personal interpretation. Please stand up to our governor and have OHA and her actually take into consideration the no need for 6-foot spaces, masks, etc., and return to 5 full days if instructed. Let us start being proactive instead of reactive. We have done enough damage to our youth. Sincerely, Steve S. And the last one, very briefly, from Lisa in West Lynn. I am writing to ask you to support the 5-day full-time school K through 12 for all Clackamas County. Science supports it. She has included a link to an NBC News story. CDC has said our county should be fully open. Oregonians have done a fantastic job keeping numbers low, but has completely failed our students. Thank you, Lisa, from West Lynn. All right, we've had another hand go up, and it is going to be Karen Rush. Karen, you are on. If you could unmute yourself. There you go, and you're on for 3 minutes with Clackamas County Commissioners.
Hi, thank you. My name is Karen Rush, and I'm the Executive Director of the Children's Center in Oregon City. And we are a child abuse assessment center seeing children who have been referred to us by law enforcement agencies, teachers, Oregon Department of Human Services, and other community members when abuse is severe enough to really need to have a full investigation. And we do a very trauma-informed assessment in which children can really feel safe, valued, and heard, and be protected in the process of exploring what happened to them and helping them come to a place of healing. I'm new to this position. I've just been here for 2 months after having spent 21 years as an educational administrator in North Clackamas School District. I'm also the parent of 2 young people whose learning and lives have been impacted by the pandemic. So these issues are very important to me, and I want to thank you so much for having this town hall to talk about the needs of children. It really is very affirming to me as a member of this community, so thank you. As a member of the Safe Kids Coalition, I will really just be echoing what my peers have already shared. But from my perspective, as the county's only designated child abuse assessment center, I am very concerned about the influx of referrals that we're expecting to see when children return to school. We know that teachers are a major source of a safe, trusted adult that children will speak to because they know that teachers will hold them in a place of safety. And so we expect to have an influx of referrals. And as my colleagues have stated, our funding and capacity to do that has gone down. So the Safe Kids Coalition is a collective of community-based nonprofits and other organizations that are using our shared voice to request additional support from COVID relief money that may be coming through the state and county level. That is all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the comment there, Karen. Oh, I see another hand has gone up. Again, you can raise a comment if you want to submit a comment to the commissioners. Please go ahead and raise your hand soon because we don't have a lot of hands up, and we will probably end a bit early if there's no other hands that go up. So with that, I will bring in Jennifer Dale. Jennifer, go ahead and unmute yourself, and then there you go, and you have 3 minutes with the commissioners.
Thank you. Thank you all for hosting this session. I know I've met with Sonia before early on. I am one of the co-founders of Clack to School along with Brittany and the larger group Ed 300 that is statewide and representative of approximately 35,000 families throughout Oregon that seeks to reopen our schools. I really just wanted to share with you a letter that I wrote yesterday to our local lawmakers about my daughter, Lizzie. She has Down syndrome and she's 9 years old in the 3rd grade. I'm a parent actually to 3 school-age children, including Lizzie, and really urging anybody in a position that's elected by us and has the ability to influence outcomes to take action that reopens Oregon schools to all students full-time immediately. Members of our scientific and medical communities agree that our schools should be restored to their pre-March 2020 status right now. My daughter Lizzie has suffered immeasurably from the closure of Oregon schools. She's in 3rd grade and receives special education services. Many of these continue to be suspended because their manner of delivery is restricted under ODE's Ready Schools Safe Learners guidance. Meanwhile, Oregon's guidance has failed to keep pace with new developments such as widespread vaccination for teachers and families and other members of our community, There's decreasing case rates and hospitalizations, and we have emerging knowledge about COVID that helps us deal with some of the related challenges. Some of the federally mandated IEP services that my daughter should be receiving include speech and occupational therapy. She's supposed to receive about 120 minutes of this per week, but the school has said that they will only deliver it via telehealth. And for a child with cognitive disabilities, telehealth is not effective. She doesn't understand why, why she might be on mute and nobody's responding to her, or why other classmates, for example, don't see her even though she's waving at them. She doesn't know how to use an iPad or a computer in that manner. And we have been denied those services for a full year now. We've requested from everybody, ODE, anything we can do. We've written letters for a year asking that the guidance be more compatible and recognize these requirements that are in my daughter's IEP, and they're federally mandated. And they're things that provide Lizzie FAPE, equal access to education that other students have, that she should have. We've been profiled kind of nationally, and we have talked to as many people as we can. It's just that Oregon's guidance has been incompatible, and when we ask our special ed teachers and our special ed representatives what they can do, they say their hands are tied. So I really just urge you, the two main things, one has been brought up, which is the 6 feet distancing. Another one relates to the cohorting that ODE has, the cohorting restrictions, so that like one SLP can't work with multiple. And I know you don't have a direct, correlation to this, but if there's anything you can do to, help us figure out how to get an education and get these services for our kids, we feel really stuck because we are hearing, oh, that's not my area, or I can't do anything to change that. And we're hearing that from everybody. So it's really hard to know where to go. The other thing is that this summer, I'm really excited
Jennifer, we are going on well over 3 minutes.
Okay, sorry. That's all I needed to say then.
Okay, thank you very much.
But thank you. Thanks for hosting this.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we are going to go over to Tonya Hunt. Tonya, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself. There we go, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Schrader, Commissioner Fisher. I wanted to thank you for hosting this listening session, this town hall, and just following up on your ongoing commitment to kids and families in our county. You have shown us with your actions and with your just ongoing work in this area how important this is to you, not just in the words you say, but in the deeds you move forward and the actions you take. I wanted to speak as someone who's worked 30 years in the field of child well-being, 10 years in child abuse specifically, and just say that if I was trying to find a perfect environment for child abuse to thrive, it would be the last year of pandemic in our community. Child abuse grows in darkness, child abuse grows in secret, and child abuse thrives behind closed doors. And that's what we've had in our community for the last year for our kids. Our kids have been isolated, they've been alone, they've been left to face incredible challenges in their families. We also know that primary contributors to child abuse include economic stress, domestic violence, drug and alcohol use, housing insecurity. This has been defining factors of the last year. So we know kids are living in extremely risky situations, and we know that we have this perfect environment of secrecy, of isolation, of secrets that allow child abuse to continue to escalate. Trauma for kids cannot be healed
until it is revealed. So what's going to happen is that kids will go back to school and they will finally, after settling in, begin to talk to their teachers, begin to talk to their instructional assistants, begin to talk to their principals, their school counselors, their school bus drivers. People will begin to see these kids for the first time in a year outside of their immediate families. And we will see an unprecedented number of kids and families being identified as high risk and children who have already experienced abuse. In order to help those children recover, we must first make sure the abuse stops and make sure it is acknowledged, and then begin the healing process. In each one of those instances, stopping abuse, acknowledging abuse, and beginning the healing process, we rely on our nonprofit community members who are part of the child safety system. And they are not equipped to handle the level of need that we certainly know is coming. So as an independent community member, I've been working with the Safe Kids Coalition, and we are anxious to work with the commission to see what we can all do together to meet the needs of these kids who will surely come to light in the coming months. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for that, Tonya. Let's see, I see we have another hand that is up. Kelly Elliott. Kelly Elliott, there we go. If you could go ahead and unmute yourself. Very good. You are on with Clackamas County Commissioners for 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you so much for hosting this town hall and for the opportunity to speak. I'd like to echo previous comments regarding the OHA's restrictions in the RSSL document that keep our kids from returning to school. I recognize that people are afraid, but all of the science that sounds like Julie is about to send to you tells us that this is safe to return. It's safe to return full-time and in person. To that effect, I'd like to read you a message from a local pediatric ICU nurse that I am sharing with her permission. I work in PICU, and where I'm used to seeing kids come in from things like boating, ATV, etc., what I'm seeing now during this pandemic time is suicide attempt after suicide attempt after suicide attempt, gunshot wounds, either self-inflicted or otherwise, and a few kids with inflammatory illness. Our inpatient pediatric population predictably has changed based on behavior that has changed, but I would not have fathomed the number of kids coming for suicide attempt or suicidal ideation. Kids are still coming into the ER and getting admitted to PICU and sadly die. But the reason is not that they are coming in and dying from COVID, as much as it is that they are dying from their declining level of mental health. And this does not include one of, for me, the toughest increases that we are seeing for pediatric mortality, non-accidental trauma abuse. For me, this is the most horrific of all, and these numbers are also increasing. In a nutshell, the importance here is that child abuse is going undetected until it's so late the kids need more extensive medical intervention to recover from the injury. So the warning signs are being missed since kids are not around other people to detect the issue, meaning that they are only entering the healthcare system when the situation is so bad that it can no longer be ignored. Think starvation, neglect, that's so bad there is a metabolic change that leads to a seizure, abuse to the point that it causes an impossible to ignore situation like severe bleeding. My job goes past the ER, so in these situations, if a patient makes it to my care, they either didn't die immediately or they are in terrible shape and needing days, weeks, and months of care to recover their bodies because their minds may never recover. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Kelly. Let me see. I do not see any other hands that are up. Gally, I did want to throw a question your way. It's not uncommon for the county to hear from, well, at least single parents who are struggling with school-age kids. We do hear about them feeling alone and isolated, and with kids having some behavioral and emotional struggles. So in addition to the crisis line, what other options are out there for support?
Great question. And I'm also, Dylan, I would love to respond to the earlier question too.
Okay.
Let me just take this question first. So I first of all, as a parent, And as someone who's working full time and also has a child in distance learning, it's a lot. It's a lot, just to put it mildly. And feeling alone and feeling like this is never going to end is a pretty regular thing that I'm hearing from a lot of folks. Even though to some people a light at the end of the tunnel may seem like we can faintly see it. A resource that I want to call out to parents or anyone who is in a caregiver position for our school age children is an organization called Reach Out Oregon. And it's an organization, it's a resource that is identified solely to support caregivers and parents of children, and specifically children who are possibly struggling with mental health related issues or emotional health distress. But this is a place that I would love every parent to have this information on their speed dial and their cell phone. They have a parent warm line, or a parent, basically it's a parent warm line where basically, oh, Dylan, thank you, I didn't see that, but a warm line that parents can call and just talk with another individual who is also a parent. One of the great things about calling this line is that you are going to be talking either via web chat or email or on the warm line to someone who is parenting. And so it's a peer-run organization, which is super powerful, and you're going to be talking to another parent. So I would definitely check out Reach Out Oregon. It's a great place. They have a community forum also where people can join in with possibly other parents or caregivers. And again, to decrease that isolation that oftentimes parents, I know as a parent, I feel pretty isolated and alone at times as well. So it's a pretty normal experience, but it doesn't have to be that way all the time. So please reach out. There are resources, and also don't forget the crisis and support line if you need additional resources, which again is the 503-655-8585 number that Jeffrey Anderson was talking about. And that's staffed 24/7 and has, you don't have to be in crisis to call that number. Please call that number, to get support or get guidance. No question is a silly question. We welcome your calls on that line. So yeah, please reach out. So I want to go back, if it's okay, Dylan.
Yes.
I want to go back just to respond briefly to the other caller's remark about youth suicides. And we don't have the statistics. There was a caller earlier that mentioned that more young people have died from suicide than have from COVID. And I don't know how that information, I don't know where that information is coming from, because the numbers for 2020 around the deaths related to suicide in the state of Oregon have not been released. So there's some preliminary data out there, but unfortunately in the world of suicide prevention, the data comes slower than we would like. And so oftentimes we have to wait a bit for that data, unlike other statistics that we may get. So the data pertaining to 2020, we don't have that data, but what we know in the 2019 data specific to the state of Oregon was actually that the youth suicide rate decreased in the state of Oregon, whereas the overall suicide rate for 25-year-olds and above actually increased. So again, that's 2019 data. Youth suicide decreased in the state and other ages increased. I will say in Clackamas County, the majority of folks who are dying in Clackamas County from suicide are our middle-aged men. And when I say middle-aged, I'm saying 45 to 64-year-olds are really the population that is dying. Those folks are dying, and again, this is 2019 data as well from Clackamas, but those folks are dying more so than our young people. Now, young people are still dying, clearly, as was mentioned earlier, and one life lost is way too many. So I'm certainly there's no minimizing that at all, but I do want to correct people's perception that it is our adults that are dying more so than our young adults, although our young adults are still dying. As far as suicide prevention in general, oftentimes people ask us, what can I do to get involved in suicide prevention? How can I'm not a mental health professional. I don't know what to do, but I want to do something. And at the base of suicide prevention is something that we all have, and it's something that we all can do. At the base of suicide prevention, the foundation of suicide prevention is connection, and connection to other human beings. And what I mean by that is, I would love for us to live in a world where we acknowledge one another, we say hello to each other, we ask, how are you? And we stick around for the answer. And when we're worried about someone, we say, are you okay? You seem not like yourself. And I'm here for you if you need to talk about anything. And I'm here for you to problem solve what might be something that you're experiencing. And I know it sounds really simple, but I think at the base of what we can do, because there's a lot of things we do not have control over, unfortunately, and I know you all know that more than, you all know that as well. What we can do is increase our ability to connect with others, and increase our ability to, when you see something that doesn't seem quite right with someone who you care about, or maybe someone who is a complete stranger to you, who you see on the street, say something. Say something. And let me tell you, it means a lot for an individual who might be struggling, whether that's a family member or a complete stranger. It means so much to that person if someone says, hey, you seem out of sorts. Are you all right? And more often than not, the answer is, yeah, I'm okay. I'm having a rough go of it today. But the person knows that if they aren't doing well, that person knows that you are someone who they can count on. And again, you don't have to be a mental health professional to solve all this. The crisis and support line number is something that, if you have it in your cell phone, just like 911 is pre-programmed in our cell phones, if you have the crisis and support line number in your cell phone, you are never, ever, ever without support literally at your fingertips. So please, if you haven't already, please program the crisis and support line into your cell phones, because many of us don't just have one. Unfortunately, we have more than one. We have 2 cell phones. Put it in there, and you will never be without support that's literally a fingertips away. So if you encounter someone who's struggling and you ask them if they're not okay and they say they're not, then you say, you know what, let's call the crisis line together and we'll make a plan.
Thank you, Callie. Thank you very much for that. That's very good info. Oh, we did have one hand that was up, but I see it has gone down. That must have happened in the last 5 or 10 seconds here. Okay, I see no other hands that are up, and I've gone through the emails. So with that, I was going to, oh, nope, just went back up. So I'm going to bring over for one last time. It looks like it's Sarah from the National Alliance for Mental Illness, if I'm right. And then after that, we're going to go to Commissioners Schrader and Fisher for any last thoughts, because we are approaching 7 o'clock. So Sarah, if you can unmute yourself, and you're on real quick.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry to jump in again. I just my program is specifically aimed towards the prevention of and destigmatization of youth suicides and mental health. Today, I met with a teacher who lost a student in their school to suicide last week. And they have now scheduled 4 presentations from us for their school, for their classes for 6th graders. So while those statistics in 2019 are absolutely critical to understanding, we are seeing more and more outreach from teachers, from students saying in our chats during our presentations, I'm so anxious, I don't feel like I'm worth talking to. We're having high school and middle school kids saying this during our presentations. So opening these presentations up, opening schools up, and helping us further mental health awareness in these schools is critical. We also are happy to provide any information or resources we can to anyone here, to anyone you know. Please call NAMI Clackamas if you would like to. We have resource cards of crisis lines that you can carry with you to hand to people, physically hand them out as well. So yeah, please let us know if there's any way that we can support you or your kids moving forward as well. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Sarah. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn it over for any parting thoughts from Commissioners Schrader or Fisher. Oh, Commissioner Schrader, you're on mute.
Commissioner Fisher, go ahead.
Thank you. So I think I can probably speak for Commissioner Schrader and myself when I say this has been some incredibly valuable input and information provided tonight. Incredibly valuable for us as leaders in our community. So thank you. And I really want to thank Gally and Dr. Anderson and Dylan for being here and providing support so that this can happen and we get the correct information out there to folks. Some really important themes that I heard is concerns about schools opening and that there's other guidance that we need to promote with the state of Oregon. Really concerned about what we're expecting, and I've been concerned about this since the beginning of the pandemic, is what happens when children go back to school. I'm concerned about what's been happening with them not in school and not having the eyes on kids, the eyes and ears on kids through doctor's appointments and in school settings. And how do we effectively, as a community, respond appropriately? And those are really good questions that we need to be focused on. I'm very, very concerned about that. But the greatest theme that I've heard throughout tonight is the fact that we are a community and we can and will continue to look after each other and continue to care for each other and connect and communicate as we emerge through this pandemic. Looking forward to the Safe Kids Coalition's list of items that they would like us to consider. I would really encourage that coming to us before 3 weeks, however, if that's at all possible, because we are having these conversations and really focus on this right now. And that's why this conversation has been incredibly timely. So those are some of my reflections and thoughts that I look forward to sharing these conversations with the rest of our commission as well. So with that, Commissioner Schrader.
Okay. Well, thank all of you for being here, Dr. Anderson, Gally. Dylan, thank you once again for pulling together a really elegant program. This is not easy to do this via Zoom, and it's always well organized and well directed. And I want to thank you for being that person that can do that for us. I think we have a lot of work ahead of us. I think some of the things that I've kind of noticed tonight is the needs are overwhelming. But I think that we have faced doing the impossible many times before, and I think that we can do it again. I am really hopeful that we can take a close look at some of these packages that are coming our way from the federal government as well as the state government to see how we can really leverage resources across the continuum, everything from early childhood to getting kids back in school, helping them cope, and then working with our Safe Kids Coalition for children who have endured trauma. I think we're going to have a lot of work ahead of us. I think I can speak for my colleagues and Commissioner Fisher. I know Commissioner Savas has listened in tonight as well, that we are up to the challenge, that we have had 3 major emergencies in a year. And I'm at the point where, you know what, we can face anything now. And I think that taking care of our children is one of the most important things that we can do for our community, for our families, and on a personal note, for my grandchildren who have not been in school in England, as a matter of fact, and I believe are finally getting back. And to a little guy who I haven't seen since he was born a year ago at Christmas time. So not only do you have our support, I think in a very deep level, we understand the feelings that we're all going through as we move forward. And that's all we can do is just keep moving forward with hope and energy. So thank you tonight. Appreciate all you guys. And great. Nice to see you, Fisher. Okay.
Very good. Thank you both commissioners for that. I'd like to thank everyone, all the attendees for joining us tonight. Again, this is only the first virtual town hall of 2021 to be held by the members of the Board of County Commissioners. We will hold at least one town hall every month from here on out virtually. If you're interested in signing up to see what topics we are going to have in the future, you can always go to any page of our website. As you can see, that's on now. It is in the footer all the way at the bottom. If you select Get Email Updates, you can go ahead and click on there. Our form comes up, Board of County Commissioners News, or the monthly e-newsletter. You can sign up for either of those or both, because we like to get our information to you, and you will get notified as to those topics and when they are going to happen. My thanks to Commissioners Fisher and Schrader, Gally Murray, and Dr. Jeffrey Anderson. This video will be archived on the county's YouTube page by tomorrow morning. And with that, good night.